time I ever hit anyone was in my second year at grammar school. When I had first arrived, many of my classmates couldn't understand my Glasgow accent. Some even asked if we had television in Scotland. Most of them were day boys, but some were boarders whose parents lived in Rhodesia or Hong Kong or some other colony. Because of its public school pretensions, the pupils were streamed depending on their Latin results. But I'd missed the first year of Latin because of the different school systems. Our Latin teacher showed little interest in helping me catch up, so I sat in the back of the classroom, playing Minesweeper with a boy from Hong Kong. I got 2% in the Latin exam at the end of my first year and was put into the bottom stream the following year, where I found the schoolwork easy. A couple of days before summer half term, I was invited to a party. We'd just finished a history lesson, and most of the pupils had vacated the room, apart from tall blonde Jeremy and a group of his 4 or 5 best friends who'd all been to primary school together and lived in the big houses in the posh part of town. As I was putting my books away, Jeremy sauntered over to my desk, followed by his overweight chum Richard. "Do you want to come to my birthday party, Scotty?" asked Jeremy. "Some county high girls are coming, and my parents are letting me have booze." I didn't like my new nickname, but I didn't complain, because I wanted to go to a party with girls and alcohol. Back on the estate that Saturday afternoon, I was playing outside the terraced houses where the rougher kids lived, when Terry and Martin, who were in the year above me and went to the secondary modern, overheard me talking about the party. Terry asked me to take them with me. "I don't know if I'm allowed to take anyone," I said. "Of course you can. We're your friends, aren't we?" said Terry. "I don't know him well enough to ask. He's in your class, isn't he? He won't mind. But the party's on the other side of town." "So how are you getting there?" "Well, my dad's taking me." "Well, he can take us too, can't he?" I'm not sure. Just tell him we're your friends. It'll be all right." My dad had been a sergeant major in the Royal Highland Regiment, the Black Watch. After the war, he got a job as a clerical officer in the Forestry Commission. He hadn't settled well into civilian life and was a little too fond of a drink. He spent most evenings in the bedroom studying for his civil service exams, and when he wasn't working or studying, he drank. He was not violent or happy or morose. He just drank whiskey with an air of resignation. When we were living in Glasgow, my mum and dad both worked full-time and rarely paid much attention to what went on in my everyday life, as long as I achieved academically and went to Boy Scouts and Bible classes. But just like the rest of my friends, I spent a lot of time playing out in the streets and got up to all the usual mischief with all the other kids in the neighbourhood, lighting fires in derelict buildings, stealing comics from the shops, and climbing over the rooftops of the Scottish Farmers' Dairy. I was popular with girls and young children, but to the tougher boys I was a crybaby, a mummy's boy. I didn't stand up for myself in the playground and got chased by the Catholics from over the hill. I hoped my dad would realise I was in a tricky situation with Terry and Martin and refused to pick them up, but he didn't. So those older boys squeezed themselves into the back seat of his Ford Corsa. Jeremy had a den in the basement of his parents' imposing residence with hand-me-down furniture and a record player. Some of our classmates were in couples with the grammar school girls. I introduced my good friends, Terry and Martin, and nobody asked why I had brought 2 strangers with me. I gratefully accepted a bottle of beer and started drinking. Once the party was in full swing, Terry grabbed hold of me, pulled me to the ground and pinned me down. I felt the dirty floorboards beneath me and the weight of indignity on my chest. I'd been in similar situations before, straddled by some bully boy, tormenting me until I'd cried. As I wriggled and squirmed and tried to get away, I was acutely aware that the girls were watching. When Terry pinned me to the floor, Martin pulled down my trousers. I redoubled my efforts to escape, but then Jeremy's podgy sidekick Richard joined in. I felt the neck of a beer bottle clanking against my teeth as Richard poured on the humiliation, beer overflowing my mouth, running down my cheeks. I was outnumbered, but my desperation was such that I managed to wrestle free. I scrambled upright, raging, alcohol coursing through my veins. Afraid to tackle the older boys, I punched Richard in the face instead. It was the first time I'd ever drunk alcohol and the first time I'd hit anyone. I span around like a deranged dervish, knocking over tables, throwing chairs across the room, pulling down bookshelves. Everyone backed off while Jeremy calmed me down. My social climbing had finished before I got off the ground. From then on, to overcome my shame, I pretended I was a tough kid from Glasgow.